Alrighty, so in today's video, I want to talk about why I switched to the Sony A7 III in 2020 for my real estate business. Let's get started. What's good, guys? Ken here, you're watching Original Dobo, and on this channel I usually do drone and tech, but I also talk about camera and real estate business and how you can better your business and make money with a drone and camera. In today's video, I want to talk about the A7 III in 2020 because I think with all these new cameras coming out, a lot of people would ultimately dismiss this for something newer and miss a really great deal. So I was able to pick up this camera for $17.95 on Amazon with a lens. I got the 24 to 70 millimeter lens. Now granted, I'm never probably gonna use that lens. It is nice to have as a backup, but I also picked up the Tamron 17 to 28 millimeter lens, which this lens deserves its own video on its own. But if you're interested in that, definitely drop me a comment down below. So I've been shooting on the A6100 for the past year, and I've been doing photos and videos, and one of the things I've increasingly noticed is that it's taken me a long time to get through a house because the A6100 is missing a couple of key things. One, it's missing an IR trigger, and the second thing it's missing is an accelerometer so I can actually, or is it gyroscope? I think it's gyroscope. Anyways, it doesn't have the built-in self-leveling in the camera, which makes it really hard to balance when you're doing real estate photography. I often would have to rely on my bubble levels, which you should look at your bubble levels because they are going to be the most accurate as physical levels, but it is convenient to be able to look at the physical camera level as well. So I picked up this camera and I was expecting to be absolutely blown away. And you know what? I was absolutely blown away, and I'm a complete fan of full frame now. So here's my main reasons why I bought this camera in 2020. Firstly, Uncompressed Raw. Now both the A6100 and the A6600 and the A7 III all shoot 14-bit RAW files. However, with the A7 III, you get the option of Uncompressed Raw, which gives you far more information. So the style of photo editing that I do is flambient. Basically, it's one ambient shot, a flash shot, and I blend it together. Now, when I take my flash shots with the A6100, the max sync shutter speed was 1/60th. So with this, I can go all the way up to like 200 to 260 sixtieths of a second, which is crazy fast and allow me to keep the ISO a little bit lower, keep the flash pop higher, and I just always get great results when running a flash. Now the type of flash I use, I have a trigger on here and I use the Godox 8200 Pro, and it's definitely enough to illuminate a large room. Sometimes I have to run multiple flashes if the room is really big, but it's a phenomenal flash and it allows me to get those really nice crystal clear window pulls. I'll throw some photos up on the screen if you're interested in seeing those. So that was reason number one. Reason number two, and could be one of the biggest reasons why many people flock to this, is the fact that it offers dual SD card slots. So you have slot 1 and slot 2. And what this allows you to do is program this to where you can simultaneously write to both slot 1 and 2. Now with my A6100, I was sort of able to fake this because I ended up buying a Cam Ranger, and that Cam Ranger also offered an SD card slot. So it was wirelessly transmitting files to the Cam Ranger as I would write to it. Now the problem with that is it slows down my workflow immensely when I use a Cam Ranger. As much as it pains me to say I was wrong, the Cam Ranger is a great tool, but it should only be used in certain situations. It shouldn't be used for an everyday shoot. My goal is to get through my houses in about 40 minutes of time. And with the Cam Ranger, it was slowing me down to about an hour and 10, hour and 15 minutes for photos. And that's just way too long. So with using this, I don't have to worry about when I get back to my house, whether or not I'm gonna have files missing. Even if I lost an SD card, corrupted it, or broke an SD card, I always have a backup. Now, I'm not always writing to a backup, although it sounds like a terribly unprofessional thing to say. Some houses just don't really warrant me to take up that added space. So I don't usually use two SD cards, but when I'm dealing with a really expensive listing or a client that I know if something happens, I'm probably gonna lose them, then I'll use the option to write to both sides. And what's great about this is if I also have small SD cards, I can have it to where one card will be the catch-all or like sort of like that overflow. So that's my reason number two for choosing this. Now, the last reason is obviously because it's a full frame camera. But more importantly, this is much more sensitive to low light situations, which means in the exposure, I can run a higher shutter speed at a lower ISO, and I can also keep my ISOs typically a lot lower than I was on my APS-C camera. The A6100, I used to have to keep my ISO about 320. With this, I can keep it at about 160, and I'm still getting the same exposure value and also getting a cleaner image, which I think is great. The ISO is also expandable much higher than it is on the A6100, and the autofocus points are greater on this than even that of the A6600. Now, the only thing that this is really missing is eye autofocus, but since I'm just doing real estate and I'm typically shooting at about f8, f10, that is really sort of a moot point to me, so I don't really worry about that too much, but I do like how fast the autofocus is on this, and it just never misses. I never have to worry about whether or not my shots are in focus or not. Now, like I said, I did get this for a good deal. I wasn't expecting to like this so much from a photography perspective, but damn, is it really good. And the fact that it uses those new Sony batteries just means I don't have to worry about carrying around like 10 or 11 batteries or even putting this in a case or a extra battery compartment, which I had to do for the A6100 and A6400. I'm able to get through about 3 or 4 shoots with this, which is great. I carry about 2 batteries with me at all times, and it lasts me enough throughout the day, which is all I can really ask for out of a camera. So if you ask me, I think this is a great deal, and I think that the price is going to continue to drop. With the release of the A7S3, we should see an additional price reduction possibly on the A7 III, which makes this a great buy in 2020. I have filmed some videos with this, not many, but I have filmed some, and the videos I have filmed with this, I really do like the way they look. I think the full frame look looks great, and I like that shallow depth of field that I was able to achieve with this. Now again, depth of field isn't everything, and it's not for everybody, but what I was able to get out of this was really, truly phenomenal. And when you pair that with something like the Tamron 17-28, you've got a really affordable package. And at 17, 18, I'm still under $3,000 for this whole thing. I know it sounds like, oh, you're under $3,000, but no, I think I'm at like $2,200 in total for this camera system, which before, this camera was almost $2,300 all on its own, which really put it out of the range that I was able to do, plus buying full frame camera lenses. The biggest drawback to buying full frame, obviously, is the camera lenses are super expensive versus APS-C. But with Tamron lenses, I really don't have to worry about that. I do plan on doing a full review of this Tamron 17-28 because I'm absolutely in love with this from an architectural standpoint and shooting real estate. I think this does phenomenal. I even use it for vlogging, and it's plenty wide enough to do that. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about this. Did you pick up an A7 III in 2020? Are you thinking about this? Has this been on your list? I know for me, this has honestly been my dream camera ever since it came out. And I'm not really concerned too much that new things are coming out. I think the best part about cameras is the fact that even though new cameras are coming out, the old ones still work incredibly well, and it's all about what you can do behind the camera that makes the camera great. All right, that's gonna do it for this video. As always, stay original.